She'll be there in a few minutes.
Yes.
Okay, here we are. We are live now. Good evening. Uh, my
Hi.
name is Tomas Avila. Hi, Maria. How are you?
Very well.
My name is Tomas Avila, and this is another segment of conversations that I've been having with different individuals from across the state of Rhode Island. And tonight, I have the pleasure of having as my special guest Maria Bucci. Maria Bucci is running for mayor for the city of Cranston, and she is looking to become the first woman to be elected mayor in the city of Cranston. But also, she has great vision from what I hear and what I have read for the city of Cranston, a city that's going through many different changes. One of those changes that I have spoken in the past when I have the city council candidates back in August is the demographics. I love demographics, and I always been following the demographics of the city of Cranston. And one of those demographics that actually caught my attention was that the city of Cranston, within the 2010 census and the present, diversified by 80%. It had an 80% growth of diversity in the demographics, which is reflected in the different individuals, from different ethnicities, different races, backgrounds who have moved to Cranston. And that 80% actually took Cranston to become the second largest city in the state of Rhode Island, second only to Providence, and displaced Warwick, that has been the second largest city for a while, for a very long while. And now Cranston is the largest city. And Maria is looking to lead that second largest city. So I want to welcome Maria Bucci to the conversations today. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm excited to talk about some of the ideas I have for the city.
Great, thank you. And as I mentioned to every guest that I have no trick questions. I have, just a direct question. The purpose of these conversations is for people to get to know, in this case, you, Maria, and every guest that I invite. But I have no trick questions or no ultimate modem other than inform the community and get. So let's get right to the questions.
Yes, yes.
So my first question, why are you seeking elected office?
So again, I appreciate you having this conversation because I think it's really important that everybody gets to hear from the candidates directly. So thank you again. I think it's so important that we have somebody in City Hall that truly represents each and every person. And this is Rhode Island. We do understand how sometimes politics works, and that group is becoming smaller and smaller, and regular people are getting left out. And I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity in the city and voices are heard. I was on the city council back in 2004. I was young at the time. It was almost 15 years, well, over 15 years. And I had two small children at the time. But I really had the opportunity to see how city government worked because I didn't know. I was on the Democratic City Committee for a few years, but I didn't know how, the administration worked with the city council. And I was disappointed. I come from a family of laborers. We work really hard, and I know how hard it is to, make it through each day and just have the basics. And to see sometimes that they didn't take that into consideration on everything they did, just sometimes time being wasted when a lot of people can't afford time being wasted. Time is money in business, and it's no different for each Cranston resident. So there was a lot of waste that I was kind of disappointed with. I ran for re-election again. in 2006. I was able to accomplish a lot, but my children were at an age then where, I thought I needed to be home a little bit more. So I made the decision not to run again in 2008. Uh, at that time, I opened a business, a new industry in the state, and we'll get into that later. And I kind of thought I was out. I did not think I would get, involved again. I did a lot of community work. I worked with the private organizations and fundraising for local charities in the city, but I didn't know if I would get involved in politics again. But just seeing over the past few years the divide that's going on in the country, the divide that's going on and all around us. I don't want to see that happen here in the city. I truly love the city. I think it's a great place, and I think we have everything to offer. So I want to bring people together. And I really had to talk about it with my family and think about it. I said, wait a minute, this is a good fit. I have business experience. I had the experience on the city council. I know how government works. I know how to create new positions and new jobs and new ideas. This is exactly what we need going into 2021. So I'm excited about it.
Great, thank you. And what are some of the issues that define your campaign platform?
So of course, we're all facing the pandemic, and that's my biggest concern right now. And it's on everyone's mind. How are we going to come out of this pandemic stronger than ever? And we have to make sure that we are giving the resources and tools that the residents and teachers, students, and business owners need to really survive through this pandemic. So that's really my main concern now, is to really get through the pandemic and come out of it stronger than ever. Some of the other issues, just an affordable Cranston. It's coming to a point where now it's almost unattainable to buy a home or just to live in the city, even to afford rent. So I want to make sure that we can put in uh, uh, plans to make sure we can have affordable housing for everybody. And I do. I have that plan in place, and I think it's going to be exciting, and it's going to actually create even more business too. So I'm excited about that. And then the basics, because I always say Cranston residents don't really ask for much. They like nice schools, their streets plowed, nice sidewalks, good streets, no potholes. Let's make sure, we're taking care of those things also, the basic needs, so we don't see the flooding issues and the problems over the long-term problems that we see. So I think those are the three main things that we can work on right away.
Great, thank you. And what do you consider are critical differences between you and the other person seeking the same office as for mayor?
So I think we're very different. I know that he wants to continue on the old ways, and we can't. I mean, it's time to change. It's like you've said, the city has changed so much. Diversity has increased by 80%. We need to change with the city. We make sure this is a city that reflects everybody. And that's something I want to do on day one, and I know we can. I have a plan, and I haven't heard really a new plan from my opponent. It's just the same old continuing on the way things been with no actual plan. We need to be ready for 2021. Life will be very different after this pandemic. We see a lot of people working from home now. So a lot of office space will be empty. We have to find ways to fill that up. And some ways what we could do is actually turn that into housing. Is not a bad idea. But we have to be creative in solutions moving forward. I said we had this conversation before. I think we've really been pushed into the future fast, and we have to move with it. So we need someone that's willing to do that. And I just know I'm the right candidate to do that.
Great, thank you. And I just want to add to that when you talk about something new, besides the demographics change, there was a commission that was formed to look into the diversity of the city of Cranston. And it was because of the same thing, because the lack of diversity. So I'm glad to hear that, your awareness and, trying to bring that also to the community.
Absolutely.
And this question is, I think you already answered it, but I'll ask it anyway. What accomplishment in your past will you consider important as when you become Mayor Maria Bucci?
So I think the experience I had on the city council will help a little, but I think the overall benefit to being going to this position is just the business background I have. I went into a new business that was new to the state of Rhode Island, um, just a new industry altogether. And we were able to grow that from absolutely nothing into over 136 employees. And it's something I'm very proud of. And we did that with, we also had many patients too, and we involved them in the growing with the business. And what we did was so unusual, and the way we included everybody and the way we grew together, it's really amazing. And I know we can bring that same aspect to the city, to City Hall, and I'm excited to do that. So
Great, thank you. What type of business was it that you got involved in?
So we opened up the first compassion center in Rhode Island, and it was a new industry for the state. It was just basically a new industry in the country, and we did, we had to learn with the state, navigate, so I understand what it means to be transparent and accountable. We had to do that, and we worked well. And it was building that relationship and building that trust with the state to grow, and the results were good. So I'm proud of that.
That's good. That's a very good
Yeah.
accomplishment. It's a
Yes.
new industry, new business, and be successful.
Right.
Thank you. I knew that there's a meeting tonight in the finance committee, and there's a new proposal to change, which from what I understand is being changed. It's going to be heard tonight, but the voting is going to be moved for next month. But I'll ask you the question because it has to do with the diversity again. And what they're looking to do, or what they're proposing, is to change the contract and purchases and create the MBE, WBE, and BBE, which is MBE is the Minority Business Enterprise, WBE is the Woman Business Enterprise, and the BBE is the Veterans Business Enterprise, which from what I understand, Cranston hasn't had those particular
Right.
designations, which, needless to say, for those who don't know, is that is what the way many cities and states actually diversify their personnel, and most important, their purchasing departments. How do you feel about that particular change?
So I definitely think it's long overdue. So I'm excited to see that it is on the agenda tonight. I'm a little sad that they're not voting on it, but I understand it's something new and it probably needs a little adjustments. But this is definitely something that is long overdue. We want to make sure that the bidding process is fair. We want to see more women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses in the city, and we want to make sure they have the a fair shot to be awarded the bids. So this is great news for the city. Like I said, I think it's long overdue, but I'm excited to see it on the agenda, and I do hope it passes soon, because that does happen sometimes in government. We'll talk about it for too long and then nothing happens. So I really hope this passes in the next month's meeting.
I actually was looking forward to, as soon as I finish with you, jump into that meeting.
I know.
But then I was informed that it has been recent. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is good though that it is on the docket. We're having discussion. I think there is a few adjustments we need to make. Maybe that but to have it there and to actually take action, like I said, is long overdue. And this is Cranston moving in the right direction. So I'm happy to see it. I'm really happy.
Great, thank you. Now, there's many issues going through this country, in particular with the death of Mr. Floyd, that has brought up a lot of issues that have been persistent in this great nation. And I need to ask you this question. Do you believe the systemic racism exists in this country, in Rhode Island? And what do you envision to combat it if you believe that it exists?
It exists. It exists in this country, every state, and this state, and this city. And we got to do what we can to make sure we can educate each other, work together, and stop it. I'm glad the conversation we're having it, but let's do things to change it. And I think on day one with my administration, we can start leading by example. And hopefully other cities and towns will follow. It's just something that we have to make sure that we're working with everyone, working with all community leaders, coming together and truly leading by example. So I feel confident we can do it, but it's done working together. So
Great.
it has we have some work to do, but we can do it, definitely.
And I totally agree with you when you say that it's been talked about it, because I remember being involved back in 2000, and it was the same conversation, diversifying the city, diversifying the police, diversifying the fire department. And here we are, almost 20 years after, and the same conversation is still going. The same commission has been reactivated, but which all of those is good. But as you say, it's time to take action to
Action,
actually,
action.
right,
And
move the
I
city
think
forward.
that, yeah, and I think just in our hiring practice, we know how it works. It's that small group that continues to come in, and unfortunately, sometimes they save that job for their, Bobby's cousin or whoever, and we need to break it. We need to break the way things are done. We need to move the city forward, and we need to make sure that everybody in the city is included and represented. And like I said, I'm excited because I know we can lead by example here together. We can do this.
And I'm glad that you mentioned the family, because that's usually what tends to
Right.
happen in government. Like you say, is not so much the larger community, but the that small community called family. And I'm glad that you are talking about it, but most importantly, that you plan to change it also.
Because I want Cranston to be one big family. We're going to be one big family. We're going to work together, and it can happen. It can, but we have to change the way government has been.
Exactly. Uh, so we've been dealing with a pandemic since the beginning of the year, but in particular since March, when the state and the cities were shut down. And the pandemic's still here. Just today, the governor is, pretty much bringing some new restrictions regarding the coronavirus. And my question to you is, how do you feel, or what do you feel needs to be addressed in order to bring control to the coronavirus?
Well, I think communication is key. I think having the communication, updating people, let everybody know what's going on is key. So we have to make sure that we're in constant communication and educating people. I think we can do simple things right now, which we know work, is wearing masks, washing our hands, staying 6 feet apart, and taking this. The next few months are going to be very difficult. We don't know where the winter months are going to take us. A lot more people are going to be inside, closer together. Then we have the holidays coming up. So the next few months are going to be tricky. But I think if we all just take those precautions, wearing the mask, social distance, washing our hands, and just paying attention, and if we can just get through the next 6 months, hopefully this will stop, it will be behind us soon. But communication is key in this. Um, hopefully when I'm elected, I will have a plan in place if there's a vaccine to make sure that we have a deployment plan, that everybody has access to that and have areas where they can get it, have it set up. And that again is done through communication. So I plan to make sure that I'm in constant communication with the residents in the city.
And this is a question that I forgot to ask, but I'll ask. Economic development is the driver of development, job creation, tax creation. What is your vision regarding economic development for Cranston?
Yeah, and it's extremely important right now because we don't want to rely on the taxpayers. We know we have some financial issues coming up. The state has not passed the budget yet, so it's a really uncertain time for cities and towns. Uh, we have to do what we can to make sure our businesses come to the city. We had the Costco's project. A lot of talk was around the Costco's coming to Cranston. And we wanted to go in one particular area, which it really didn't fit. But I think it's really important that we do find a location for that business. And that business has over 360 jobs, good paying jobs with benefits, which would be great for the economy right now because we're going to need that. It also brings in revenue. I don't have the exact numbers, but it was around 500 to 700,000 a year in revenue to the city. So that would help us too, especially during these times. But we have to make sure we have coming up is it's almost 10 years for our comprehensive plan. And a lot has changed in 10 years. So we have to get right to work on the comprehensive plan. I think once we lay that out, we lay out what we like the city to look like, what areas we want to grow. And even if we put out a visual to show developers and business owners, this is what we like the city to look like. You make sure we give them the resources and tools to come here and open their businesses. I think we'll be successful. But that's done through communicating, marketing, reaching out to people, working together, making sure that smaller businesses have the tools and resources they need to open up their shops here in Cranston. So I'm excited about that. It's hard right now because of the pandemic, but I know it's going to be a benefit to the city overall.
Thank you. And last but not least, there's two bonds that are going to be, I think, in the November election. One on education, and the other one I think is on clean air. What is your stand on both of them?
Well, I really hope they both pass. I think they're very important for the city. I am out there knocking on doors, talking to residents and just educating them a little more how important they are to the city. The school bond is around $147 million. We'll be making school building improvements. Actually, we're actually having a new school built too. The schools are so important, right? We need good schools. I mean, that's where it all begins. That's where your community starts, at the schools. That's why people move here. They want their children to learn in a safe environment. Some of the school buildings are terrible, really in terrible condition. They haven't been touched in over 50, 60 years. So it's long overdue, and I really hope it does pass. And I think it will benefit all Cranston residents. And also with the climate bond, that's something we need too. We, as you know, I talk about green infrastructure, which I think is really important to the city. It creates jobs. We could use a lot of federal money for that program. It helps with our beautifies our city, but also helps with drainage issues. There's so much, and it helps overall with the environment. So it's a win-win for everybody.
And I always say that I enjoy these conversations, but it's like time flies by.
I
And
know, I can't believe it.
I'm looking at the clock and it's like, oh my God.
Well,
So
we'll do it again soon.
I know. Before we close, anything that I didn't ask or that you want people to know about Maria Bucci?
Well, I'm just really excited to be here, and I hope everybody would take the time to maybe go to my website, bucciforcranston.com, and just learn more about me. My phone number's on there, my email, so please reach out if you have any questions. I'm here for all of us. And I'm truly doing this for every Cranston resident. And I want to do the best job I can for each and every one of us. And the only way we can do that is working together. So I just, now let's win in November, but we can do this together.
That's what I was going to ask you. When is the elections? What time is it that people can vote?
Yep. So November 3rd is election day. But starting yesterday, you can go to City Hall between 8:30 and 4 o'clock. They have a voting machine there, so you can vote anytime. Just bring your ID. You don't need to make an appointment or anything. You can just walk into City Hall and you can vote early. And it's great. And that runs, then they do that till November 2nd. So go anytime and vote. It's so important that we do that. We get cast our vote this year. We need to make change. It's long overdue. So vote, vote, vote.
Well, Maria, thank you very much. I know you're a very busy person as a business
I
person,
know.
as a mom, as a candidate, but I greatly appreciate you making this time to have this conversation. And I wish you the best of luck. And
Thank you.
after November 3rd, I look forward to having another conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you
Have
everyone
a
who's been listening and watching. Have a good night.
good night. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.